Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Hi there, welcome along to the Racing Post Football Postcast. Bruce Millington, Dan Childs, James Milton and Paddy Power's Mal Rooney looking ahead to playoff weekend and also the Europa League final. Plus there are the final weekend of various leagues around Europe. We've got all the best bets, but it's a classic weekend this. I do love the old promotion playoff finals. And we're back to the proper 3 p.m. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, starting at 3 p.m. on Saturday with the League 2 playoff final. It's Newport County versus Tranmere. Who knows what's going to happen? The only certainty is Mike Dean will not be refereeing it. But let's get the prices from Mal and then the tips. Mal, what's the 90 minutes and to go up?
So Newport have actually just shortened in this morning. They're now 15-8 to win the match in 90 minutes. The draw is 2-1 and Tranmere are 6-4. And then Newport are slight underdogs at evens to go up and Tranmere are 8-11 favs. OK, well, if you watched the postcast a couple of weeks ago, all the lads were adamant that Newport were the bet. That includes you, Dan. Are you sticking firm?
I think it'll be a tight game. I fancy Newport to start because they were 9-2 outsiders, which, in a 4-horse race. And I didn't fancy Mansfield so much as well. I thought they just missed out on the automatics. And so that sort of fed into the value aspect there. I think this is going to be a close game. In the league this season, Newport won 1-0 away to Tranmere. There was a 0-0 draw at Newport. I can see this going all the way. I mean, Newport, they drew both their games against Mansfield, went through on penalties. I think this is going to be a similar scenario here. Tranmere have got the advantage of having a real class goal scorer in the side. Norwood has got scored vast majority, scored almost half of their goals, 28 goals out of 63 for Tranmere this season. Newport on a great unbeaten run, 12 games unbeaten to the end of the season and the playoffs as well. Came back very strongly. They had a bit of a dip in the middle of the season when they were involved in the FA Cup. They had a great run beating Leicester, Middlesbrough, that game against Manchester City, and their league form went a little bit. So they've done fantastic really to recover from that and get to the playoffs.
Who do they have up front? Is it Jamil Matt? Is he their main?
Matt and Amon almost usually played a 4-4-2 earlier in the season, switched more to a 3-5-2 recently, but it's usually two up top. And they play direct. I don't know how, because of the dodgy pitch there at Rodney Parade, I don't know how that's going to suit so much at Wembley. But Tranmere, I watched their semi-final against Forest Green and had a lot of luck really because sendings off, they played over half of that tie against 10 men. Forest Green had Gavin Gunning sent off 15 minutes into the first leg. Winchester was sent off, I think, midway through the second half of the second leg. So, and Tranmere still only scraped through 2-1 on aggregate. Norwood again making a difference with a winning goal.
What's the bet then, Dan?
Well, I think, as I said, I think it's going to be very, very tight. Could well be another penalty shootout. Newport were faultless on penalties in the semi-final, scored all 5.
So what's the bet?
A draw. 90 minutes draw, 2-1 in a tight game. I think that's a reasonable bet.
Milts, what do you like?
So I'm edging towards Newport, draw no bet. I mean, I think under 2.5 goals is kind of 2s on, and the draw in 90 minutes looks a big runner. But Newport is so strong at the back. We've seen them in the FA Cup over the past couple of seasons, beating Middlesbrough and Leicester and Leeds, competing well with Tottenham. They held out for 51 minutes against Manchester City this season, which not many top-flight teams have managed. And I just think they finished so strongly in the regular season. They beat the likes of Bury and Lincoln on the run-in, and then came through against Mansfield in a really tough time. Mansfield, the highest-ranked team in the playoffs. So I just don't think this occasion is going to faze them at all. Tranmere have struggled for goals, other than obviously Norwood, who's been prolific. But yeah, I really like the look of Newport, draw no bet in this.
And Mal, what's your fancy?
Yeah, I'm with the lads here. So Newport were obviously the form team in League 2 before the playoffs, when they had the last 10 to get in there. And then 12 of their last 16 games have also seen under 2.5 goals. So it would indicate it's going to be a low-scoring game, I would have to suggest. Norwood was a standout player, obviously, in League 2 this season, and I think he got Player of the Year as well. So I think Norwood was tipped numerous times across the season in the goal score markets in this postcast. But I just think, while he's an obvious concern, I'd be happy to side with Newport here in what's likely to be a fairly low-scoring affair, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it head to extra time. So two bets I like are the 0-0 correct score at half-time, which is 6-4, and then I'm happy to side again with Newport in the to be promoted market, which can be got around evens or just a shade above.
I think we tipped Norwood for top scorer in League 2, didn't we? Start of the season?
I think, yeah.
40 to 1, yeah. Great shout.
Can't take the credit for that one.
Now then, if the iconic Premier League game of all time is Liverpool 4, Newcastle 3, probably the iconic Football League game of recent generations is the Charlton Sunderland playoff all those years ago. Absolutely fantastic. Kevin Phillips, Niall Quinn, et al. Who would have been up front? Mendonca, probably.
Yeah.
Wouldn't he? Great memories. Anyway, these two teams renew rivalry at Wembley on Sunday for the right to play in the Championship next season. Charlton versus Sunderland. Fascinating game and pretty tight as well, Mal, as far as the betting goes.
Yeah, so Sunderland are the slight favs here at 6-4. The draw is 11-5, and Charlton are 9-5. And then Sunderland are 8-11 to be promoted, with Charlton in at evens.
I'll stick with you, Mal. I'm slightly surprised that Charlton are outsiders here. What's your view?
Yeah, we kind of think the same in the office here. So I watched the Charlton Doncaster second leg, and the entertainment levels were very
brilliant,
high.
Wasn't it?
It was
really
good. Brilliant. Yeah. I thought it was a fantastic match. I thought at times the organisational quality of Charlton was a little bit poor for such a big game, and in the end they were probably quite fortunate to get the match to penalties after the goalkeeper hiccup, just after they went behind, seconds after kickoff. Actually, nearly missed it with the replay. But credit where credit was due to Doncaster. They really did play well. They put in a valiant display. They probably raised to a game for the return leg. I actually have a couple of mates who are Sunderland fans, so I'd be cheering them on in spirit in this one. But in terms of the betting, even though I can't see too much to separate them, I'd rather be on Charlton at the price. I think it's another game that is likely to go to extra time. I'd be happy enough to be on the draw here. So my two picks are a nice boring draw at 11-5, and then I like Charlton to edge it in extra time at 12-1. There's question marks over McGeady's fitness, but he'll probably start the game anyway, which could be a negative. And the lads really like Lyle Taylor in here, and they think he's a class above, so he could be the difference maker on the day. So Charlton for me just past the 90.
You touched on something there that has annoyed the hell out of me all season. When a goal goes in and they spend the next minute showing zillions and zillions of bloody replays from every single angle, and then you can hear the crowd cheering, can't you? And they will miss a high-profile goal at some point. It's
100%.
It's absolute scandal. We've seen the bloody goal. We don't need to see it from every single poxy angle. Show the game, James.
I don't know how to follow that. I'm expecting an entertaining game. Maybe not quite as good as that vintage final between these sides, but I think both teams to score looks a decent bet given the regular season trends. 7 of 8 Sunderland games against teams above them featured both goals at both ends, and 8 of Charlton's 10 against the top 6. I backed Charlton at the start of the playoffs. I was expecting them to make smoother progress, having won the away leg at Doncaster. So that's a little bit of a cross in their box. But we mentioned Lyle Taylor, who's got plenty of threat up front for Charlton, and Sunderland have been decent going forward as well. They came through a very cagey semi-final against Portsmouth, but I think that was always likely to be a tight game. I think this one will be far more open. So both teams to score around 4-5. I like the look of.
21 years ago, Dan, that game was. That is unbelievable. I can't get over that. My God, I feel so ancient. 21 years ago. It just feels like yesterday. What's going to happen on Sunday, Dan?
I think Charlton a little bit overpriced here. I'm not sure it'll be that open. I watched Sunderland in the semi-final matches against Portsmouth, and they were bored you to tears, really. They got Cattermole and Ledbetter playing in midfield, really neither of them really stepping forward, and they were just looking to play it cagey, control the game. Great goal by Maguire that won the tie, the only goal of the tie, but it wasn't great to watch. Charlton have been the opposite, really. They're willing to take a bit of a chance and good going forward, but a little bit vulnerable at the back. So
they considered a horrible goal against Doncaster.
They did.
They just let him absolutely alone, didn't they?
Part of that I can sort of understand. They've gone 2-1 up. They've won the away leg. Then they've scored again at the start of the second leg. So this Doncaster got nothing to lose really there, have they? And they've thrown caution to the wind, had a bit of a go, and Charlton didn't really cope with it too great. But I still think they've got more than Sunderland offensively. With Lyle Taylor, as has been mentioned, 21 goals this season. and he's been the reason that they've coped with selling Ahern Grant in January. Both teams sold big players in January. Charlton sold Ahern Grant, who had 14 goals. Josh Madger, Sunderland lost as well. They replaced him with Will Grigg. Will Grigg hasn't really done it at the moment. 4 goals in 18 games. He's not even starting regularly for Sunderland. Played just a few minutes of the semi-final. Charlton's form since those deals this year, they've got 2.14 points per game, 45 points from 21 games. Sunderland have got 1.65 points per game. So the form this year, very much with Charlton. They're the bigger price. Go for them, the value bet. Charlton to win in 90 minutes for me.
OK, on Monday at 3 p.m. at Wembley, it's Aston Villa versus Derby. The one thing this preview guarantees, we will not try and put some bullshit quote on how many £1 million game it is, because it's just nonsense, all that. Obviously, it is valuable going up, but if you come straight back down, it's not all that important. But it's going to be a cracker. Villa versus Derby. The semi-finals certainly whetted the appetite. And I think Villa are clear market leaders here, Mal, aren't they?
They are indeed. So Villa are favs here at 6-5 in 90 minutes. The draw is 21-10, and Derby are 5-2. And then in the to be promoted market, Villa are 8-13, with Derby 5-4.
James, do you agree with that clear bias towards the villains here?
I do. I think they came into the playoffs as the informed team. I think we looked at this playoff quartet and thought it had the makings of a classic contest, and the semi-finals certainly lived up to that. Villa, not hugely impressive in coming through against West Brom. West Brom had players sent off in both legs, and Villa still needed penalties. But I think there was so much intensity in that local rivalry. I think they will play with a bit more freedom in this final. And I like the look of Villa to win and over 2.5 goals. Derby haven't convinced at the back at all, particularly against the stronger teams in the Championship. They've actually conceded 23 goals in 10 games against the top 5 in the regular season, and obviously came through another humdinger against Leeds in the semi-finals. They've got very good attacking players in the loanees, Harry Wilson and Mason Mount. But I just think Villa look the more balanced side, got so much creativity in midfield, and I think Villa if it gets into a nice open game, I think Villa have the class to come through in 90 minutes.
Dan, do you think this will be a crackerjack or a game of chess?
No, I think it's a big good game. I strongly fancy Villa actually to win. I think odds against on the 90 minutes is a really good bet. You look at Villa. As soon as Grealish got fit again, I think it was the start of March, they went on that 10-game winning run. I think it was set a new club record.
He's some player, isn't he? Do you like him?
Yeah, fantastic player.
Absolutely beautiful player. Glides across the turf.
Sure, if they don't go up, he's got to be heading to a Premier League club. But I think they will go up. It's not just all about him as well. McGinn, since he's come into the side, he's played better as well. Tammy Abraham's a fantastic source of goals for them as well.
Weren't you slightly concerned with Tammy Abraham, the way he got bullied by the West Brom centre-back? So yeah, I thought he really came out, he got absolutely battered that game.
I think he's a striker. I'm not so sure at the moment, at this stage of his career, that he's that great. He doesn't give you a lot apart from the goals. He's
back, when he's got his back to goal, I don't think he's brilliant,
he's not fantastic in terms of linking up the play and that, but they've got other players that can do that. And I just, at the back as well, a lot of people talk about their creativity in the goals, but they've tightened up at the back. One of the main reasons, got Tyrone Mings in, who's been superb for them at centre-back as well. He's made a huge difference. Derby, in the semi-final against Leeds, that game, I mean, they've had
brilliant, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, Leeds.
It was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah. But the mess ups from Leeds, the goalkeeper Casilla when they're completely in control. You've then got Cooper who's give the penalty away, and then they get back into the tie again, and Berardi completely loses the plot. 2 challenges really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not going to send me off for this one, I'll make damn sure now. I mean.
A different colour card.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the most incredible sequence of play that, wasn't it?
They've gone into the game, don't forget, Leeds as well, without 6 injured first team players. I'm looking through Alioski, Douglas, Janssen. That's 3 of your back 4. Tyler Roberts, who's been really, really good for him. Kamaru for top scorer, and Forshaw in midfield. So they don't even carry a big squad lead. So everything's right for Derby there. And even the injury for Derby during the game worked in their favour, because Lampard doesn't fancy Marriott at all. He had picked Waghorn ahead of him, he gets injured. He picked Nugent ahead of him, he gets injured. Then he plays Mason Bennett centre forward, he gets injured. Marriott comes on, within a minute he scores the goal and then finishes it off with a great goal, great finish. But he doesn't fancy Jack Marriott. Maybe he'll play in the final, but Frank Lampard, he doesn't fancy him, so who knows what'll happen there. But
so you're all over Villa?
All over Villa. Villa are the better side. Second top scorers in the Championship. Go for Villa.
2 votes for Villa. Mal, 3 votes for Villa.
Yeah, strong third vote. Yeah, I mean, I'm still not sure how Derby managed to get into the playoff final, to be perfectly honest with you.
Were you trading that game or just watching
No,
it?
I was in the pub watching Atlanta actually, but every 30 seconds I had to turn around for a cheer, and every time I looked at the television, the Leeds keeper was out of his net by about 25 yards. So I'm not surprised when that was going on. But genuinely, I just don't think that Derby were of the quality even to get into the playoffs, never mind to get to the final after beating Leeds, who are arguably the best rated team in the league. I mean, Lampard has rode his luck somewhat this season, and it's even more surprising now to see him odds on to be the next Chelsea manager, that's a different story altogether. But personally, I think Derby's season will come to an end on a Monday afternoon. I can see Villa being much too classy for them. I mean, we all know about the quality Grealish has to offer, pulling the strings, and Derby likely try to limit his possession to pockets of space very far away from the box. But Tammy Abraham, as pointed out, like, he can't be overlooked up top with his goals. I would actually agree with the point that he doesn't play as well when they're strong in possession with his back to goal, holding up the play. He actually probably would be very suited to a bottom half Premier League team that has less possession, that plays without the ball. But he's more than enough of a threat to put Derby to the sword by himself if he's given a sniff. I don't think it'll be as passive of a opening period as the other 2 games. I'd expect Villa to come out the traps quite aggressively in this one. Derby will be confident after their semi-final scalp, but even the way they celebrated after the Leeds game, I mean,
they were like a cup underdog, weren't they?
I was like, you'd swear they were just after winning promotion. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I'm all for celebrating everything, big or small, but I mean, I thought it was a great achievement to come through that tie, but there's a time and a place for that, and I don't like calling teams or managers a little bit unprofessional, but I just thought it was a little bit ridiculous after the game. Like, you'd swear if you come in and you just didn't know what was going on, they were after winning the playoff final. So they've also scored quite poorly in every stat under the sun this season, expected goals in particular throughout the year. So while that's only an indicator, I'd also rather be on the right side of it than the wrong. So I think Villa will have too much here. I fully expect them to qualify, and I think they'll win reasonably comfortably within 90 minutes, which I don't often think in a playoff final. So Villa to get promotion for a large bet for me at 8-13. I'm happy to double down and take them at 6-5 in 90 minutes. And if I was having a prop bet, John McGinn has picked up 14 yellow cards this season, and I think there's around 15 to 2-1 on him to pick up a booking.
Oh, I like that. So you prefer the mild Jedinak celebration. Did you see that when he came on? He just took one touch in the whole game, a penalty, and he just stared into the Villa end. It was absolutely brilliant. Honestly, you've got to see the Mile Jedinak stare. It is superb. Now, quickly on Lampard, chaps. If he gets the Chelsea job, does that make them stronger or weaker next season? We'll start with you, Dan.
Weaker. I mean, he's had 1 year at Derby. I think they've done about par, considering they've got 2 fantastic loans in with Mason Mount and Harry Wilson, and 6 is probably where they should have finished.
Okay, James?
Weaker. I mean, I think owners just see it as a bit of a free hit, don't they? You appoint a club legend and keep the fans off your back for a bit. But it's way too early, as Dan said. I mean, you know, if he wasn't called Frank Lampard, no one would really be that excited about what he'd done at Derby this season. So, weaker.
Mal, would you ease Chelsea if Lamps got the job?
Yeah, substantially weaker, in my
Would
opinion.
you?
Yeah, I think Sarri's done a reasonably good job, and I think he's been very underrated, even what he's done this season. And even a question he was asked in an interview the other day, I think they asked him along the lines of, you know, is your job on the line for this game? And he basically said, if that's the case, just sack me now, because why would it come down to 90 minutes? I think the fans at Chelsea have been very fickle this season, and there's complaints about the side of play and that, but I think they'll take what they have now. I don't think if Lampard was the manager this season that they'd have finished top 4 or be in the Europa League final. So we would ease them out, I'd say, if he took over.
Okay, that makes sense.
He's probably slightly more qualified than Solskjaer was when he got the Man United.
Yeah. I actually think he'd do okay. I think he's bright, and I think he'd do okay, but the boys are very down on Frank. Well, we will stick with Chelsea after this very short break, because it's the Europa League final next.
Right, 10 seconds to promote Paddy Power Games. Paddy Power Games, Paddy Power Games, Paddy Power Games. Advertising. It's easy when you know how. Paddy Power. Enough of the nonsense. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Okay, mired in controversy. It's easy to forget that the Europa League is actually a football match and will take place, hopefully, at 8 p.m. next Wednesday. I'm not sure where. There's no one's actually said where it is. No, of course they have. It's in Baku, as we all know. It's a hideous journey. It's absolutely miles away. There's lots of controversy. Mkhitaryan can't play. But we're going to focus on what will happen on the pitch in that 90 minutes next Wednesday. And before the lads give us their tips, Mal, give us Paddy Power's latest betting on the Europa League to lift the trophy and to win in 90 minutes.
So the 90-minute betting sees Chelsea as faves at 13-10. The draw is 9-4 and Arsenal are 21-10. And Chelsea are 4-6 faves to lift the cup with Arsenal 6-5.
So Dan, cutting through all the controversy, what will happen?
I fancy Arsenal here. I think they're a little bit overpriced. Not a lot between the teams in the league. You look at the Europa League, the quarterfinals and the semi-finals. Arsenal had a much tougher draw, didn't they? Had to come past Napoli, 1 away to Napoli. Then they got Valencia, demolished them really, 7-3 on aggregate. Look at Chelsea. Against Slavia Prague, conceded quite a few goals in that tie. And then Eintracht Frankfurt. I was watching the Arsenal-Valencia game, and when Arsenal got their second away goal, I switched over to the Chelsea game at the same time, and I couldn't believe how poor Chelsea were against Eintracht Frankfurt. I thought they were so lucky to get through that game. Missed Kante in midfield incredibly. Eintracht Frankfurt ran the midfield and just really lucked out really to get through that tie. And Kante, there's a doubt whether he's going to be fit or not, but I still think Arsenal, looking at those performances, are the bet here. Mkhitaryan not playing, he's not in their strongest 11, I don't think anyway. No, I think you also look at that Frankfurt team. They went into the first leg without two of their best front three, Sebastian Haller and Ante Rebic, both unavailable for the first leg. So they've had quite a lot of luck, Chelsea, really, in the draw and injuries to other teams. Not this time. Very strong Arsenal. Arsenal to win for me.
Arsenal for Dan. Who for you, James?
I'm siding with Arsenal on the prices. I just don't think there's that big a gulf between the teams. It's 2 points in the Premier League. Chelsea finished third, Arsenal fifth. Arsenal scored 10 more goals in the Premier League season than Chelsea. And so I think just purely on value grounds, I think Arsenal are the bet. Well, I would be probably backing them to win in 90 minutes rather than to lift the trophy. If it's a going day for Arsenal, then they can do it in normal time. We saw that with Lacazette and Aubameyang in the second leg in Valencia, when the rest of the team didn't really do very much, but with those two up front, they were absolutely fantastic. So that's the main hope for Arsenal fans to do it in 90 minutes, because there's not going to be a great deal on the bench in terms of attacking quality, I don't think, for Arsenal. And Chelsea, I think, in their semi-final, they brought on Ross Barkley, Higuain and Pedro. So they've got a bit more if the game does go to extra time. Having said that, Arsenal, as Dan mentioned, the last two rounds, they've won all four legs against Napoli and Valencia, which was fantastic. Kept 2 clean sheets against Napoli, which was probably about 200-1 before the start of that time. No one really believed in Arsenal's defence there. But the way they closed out the game in Naples was very impressive. So if they can kind of put together that defensive performance and then the attacking performance in Valencia, then they'll be very hard to beat. I suspect that it won't be that easy, but yeah, at the prices, I think Arsenal are the value.
And you're an Arsenal fan. Is the reason you're doing this on Skype that you're somewhere in Kiev on your way to Baku, or are you in Forest Hill? Are you going?
I'm in a travel lodge in Moldova as we speak. No, I'm not going. No. I'm still hoping they see sense and move it to Loftus Road or somewhere. But
well, there'd be more people if it was at Loftus Road, that's for sure. I think, Mal, what makes this difficult to call is that, James talked about great Arsenal performance defensively against Napoli, but you look at some of their other defensive performances recently against Palace and other games, they're absolutely shambolic. So how do you see this one panning out? Will Chelsea be able to get at this Arsenal defence, do you think, or will they stand firm?
Yeah, I'm with the lads here, actually. I'm in agreement again. At the prices, I'd rather be on Arsenal. It's very hard to see them keeping a clean sheet in any game, to be honest with you. But equally, they do have a lot of firepower. I was trying to see, I wasn't sure how many games Mkhitaryan or how influential he had been for Arsenal. He actually started half of the Premier League games this season. So, we all know it's a farce of where the venue is, and hopefully it is changed at the last minute. But I don't actually think his absence has a huge impact on the match prices, because I don't think he would have started. But looking at the current odds, I have to think Arsenal being overpriced here. When Arsenal played at home to Chelsea in the league in January, they went off almost 5-2 at home for that game, and they won 2-0. And I remember at the time we were discussing it here, we thought it was an absolutely incredible price that they were. I just don't think there's that big of a gulf in class. Chelsea do have, some very, very good players. They have an arguably better squad as well. They do have a lot of squad depth, as James pointed out there. And if it did go past the 90, you'd have to fancy that Chelsea would be able to bring on much more quality off the bench. And Hazard is the potential game winner in any match. It doesn't matter who they're playing. But you have to realise as well, people need to look at Aubameyang and Lacazette and what they've done en route to the final. And I think they were absolutely phenomenal in both legs in the semi-final. Just the two of them linking up together. So I fancy goals here. I just think that Arsenal will be on the right side of them. Both teams have scored 4-5 looks very appealing to me. I'll be having a decent bet on that. I would have thought it would be much shorter. And I like Arsenal to win in 90 minutes and both teams scores 5-1. I think that's a very backable price as well.
This is the most unified postcast I've ever done. Everyone's with Newport, everyone's with Charlton, everyone's with Villa, and everyone's with Arsenal. OK, let's see if there's any other decent bets across Europe this weekend.
Friends, or maybe more. Earn a 20 quid free bet for every friend you refer to Paddy Power, thanks to our Friends with Benefits programme. Log into your Paddy Power account and share your referral link to get started. Terms and conditions apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Hi, it's the Racing Post Football Postcast. Bruce Millington, Dan Childs, James Milton and Paddy Power's Mal Rooney. Right then, so the League One culminates on Saturday. On Sunday, it's the last knockings in Italy. We've got the Coppa del Rey, the DFB Cup. We've got the Scottish Cup. What have you rooted out for us, Dan Childs?
I've had a look at all of those cup finals. I mean, just briefly, I've gone with Barcelona half-time, full-time at odds against Valencia. We talked about Valencia being outclassed by Arsenal recently. There's a 26-point gap between the sides. I think Barcelona just have too much. The German Cup final, I think there is scope for maybe an upset. I think it's Leipzig at 9-2, a little bit overpriced. Only 12 points between the teams.
Who have they got? Bayern?
Against Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich obviously won the title with a thumping 5-1 win against Eintracht Frankfurt. But Leipzig have been 18 undefeated before they lost 2-1 at Werder Bremen on the last day of the season. Got Poulsen, the Danish striker, 15 goals, and Timo Werner with 16 this season. So they've got an attacking threat. I just think they're a little bit overpriced. And the Celtic Hearts one, I think, favourite here again. I think Celtic's form has gone a little bit because they've had a few injuries recently. But I think they're going to get a stronger team out for the cup final. Kieran Tierney, I think, has put off his operation that he's going to have in the summer to play in this game. Hearts have been, they've had such a lot of luck with a draw. I mean, I'm looking at the run they've had to the final. Livingston, Auchinleck, Talbot, Partick Thistle and Inverness they've had to beat to get to the final. They got 1 point in their last 7 SPL games, so they're in dreadful form as well, Hearts. Celtic double result for me there. Even money is a good bet.
What are they called? Auchinleck, Talbot?
Auchinleck, Talbot, yeah.
Blimey, that's a new one. James, what have you got for us?
It sounds like a kind of character actor from the 50s or 60s.
It does.
I like the look of Celtic to win 2-0 in that final, actually. They played Hearts in the last round of league games, much changed teams, 1-2-1. But before then, they kept 9 clean sheets in 11 games. Only the 2 games against Rangers did they concede. And, they're closing in on this treble, as they're calling it. And I'd just expect a ruthless performance from them. They beat Hearts 3-0 in the League Cup semi-finals earlier this season. I think it could be a similar story there. The final weekend of Serie A looks fascinating. You've got Atalanta, Inter Milan and Roma are just about competing for 2 Champions League places. Roma are 100-1 to make the top 4. And I think if their rivals kind of go ahead in their games, you could see the intensity sapping from their game at home to Parma. And Parma have only lost once in their last 7 games. And so Parma will draw double chance at 7-2 away to Roma looks decent, given the context of that game.
OK, Mal, you're very much a Serie A-focused football fan, aren't you? What have you got for us for the final weekend?
I'm loving that there. I'm in agreement. So Roma, because it goes to head-to-head in Italy instead of a goal difference, Roma are guaranteed 6th as their head-to-head against Torino is better. I actually think Parma at 14-1 to win the match is worth back. And then if Roma realise that the gig is up, then I think the heads will just drop and they'll pass no remarks. So 14-1 on Parma to win, I think, is worth a bet. In the German Cup final, I think Leipzig, I agree there with Dan. I think Leipzig at 9-2 is slightly overpriced. I've gone against Barcelona though in the Copa del Rey final. I think Valencia improved in the second half of the season, which would have narrowed the gap between the 2 teams had they continued that form or had earlier on. I think they just look at a small touch big against the Barca side who tapered off a little bit, and the fact that Barca's 3 main men, Messi, Suarez and Coutinho, also potentially with one eye on the upcoming Copa America, which is always taken very seriously by participating players. I think there's a small Barca drift coming, and I'd be happy to take them on. So a small bet on Valencia to lift the cup at 3-1 there. But Parma at 14s would be the one I'd be looking to back.
And who do your beloved Milan finish up against?
Milan are away to Spal on Sunday night. It's bizarre that all the games aren't on at the same time. So the way they've done it is just anyone who's in contention for anything to play simultaneously, and the rest of the games play whenever you want, basically. But yeah, Milan need Inter or Atalanta to drop points and a win against Spal, and that sees us into the Champions League. So I think it's about a 2-1 shot that we make it. So I have an outside hope of it.
Surely good. Let's get the naps.
This will not be beaten.
Now, there might have to be some endorsing here, I think, because the lads have agreed with each other so much. I've got a feeling that might influence the naps as well. I'm going to kick off. I'm going to go with Charlton. Should I go? No, I'm going to go Charlton to qualify. Charlton to be promoted. Dan?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Aston Villa to win in 90 minutes. I think they'll be much too strong for Derby.
James?
Newport draw no bet in the League Two playoff finals. I think it's going to be really tight, but Newport have got great big match temperament and really hard to beat.
Okay, and Mal?
And I'm endorsing Villa here for Dan. I really think double down on Villa.
Well, I know you're off to the Greek islands, aren't you, Mal, very soon? So I suspect you could be turning Mythos Lager into champagne if the Villa get it done. It sounds like you're lining up a big one, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. We'll see how the weekend goes. It could be Greece or it could be back to Cavan for me.
Excellent stuff. Dan, what are you doing? But how was the cup final, by the way?
Yeah.
I didn't really want to bring it up because you're a Watford fan. The whole family went and they got
excellent until the game started. Yeah.
Did you stay? Were you waving your flag?
I was, I was. I had a flag. Joseph was waving a flag.
It's a good show of loyalty towards the end there. All the flags were waving.
Defiance. I mean, so I missed the plus side of that was I missed the sixth goal as well because I couldn't see through the Forester flag. So.
And your man of the match bet from 2003, your bad beat there when Ronaldo should have won it but didn't because he didn't speak English. That's been usurped because Mark Langdon tipped Bernardo Silva and Raheem Sterling. It couldn't be anyone else. It could have been Jesus at a push. And then Jermaine Genius, I still can't believe it. He goes for De Bruyne. I mean, honestly, it was just unbelievable. It was really funny because when it was announced, you can see like everyone, the City bench, the fans. It's just everyone's sort
astonished,
chuckling in disbelief. It's amazing.
I went for Bernardo Silva as well. Yeah.
It was impossible. It couldn't happen. Honestly, Genius, what were you doing? James, what's the weekend hold for you, my friend?
I am in the office doing a bit of Cricket World Cup prep on Saturday, and then I'm going to a wedding on Sunday.
And when's the Cricket World Cup supplement coming out in the Racing Post?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Do not miss that. That'll be great. Mal, you're going to be working this weekend, are you? What are you going to be looking specifically to do? Get with all these favourites in the playoff final?
Yeah, I'll have a bet actually. For one weekend, I actually really fancy everything I've tipped here. Yeah, so I'll have a bet on every playoff and the big ones on Villa.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much indeed, chaps. Don't forget, if you enjoy the shows, please do make sure you rate, review and subscribe wherever you're listening, which now includes Spotify. We've got racing tomorrow, looking ahead to Goodwood, Haydock and York, plus classics in the Curragh. And then I'm back next Thursday with our penultimate postcast of the season, looking ahead to Tottenham versus Liverpool in the Champions League final.
Everything is better when it's bigger. Paddy Power's Same Game Multi allows you to combine a number of selections from a single match into one big bet. Check out the Same Game Multi tab and get building your bet. Terms and conditions apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.